Raheem, you wrote this amazing piece over at National Pulse. Walk us through it, sir.
Steve. So yeah, let me conclude on the last segment as well
Yep.
for people based on what we were saying, because I don't want people getting the wrong idea either. All of this performative Nazi and neo-Nazi stuff that these guys are doing online, like obviously we don't care about that. But here's the thing. And we know this because we were the guys once, and still are really, that were decried as the fascists and the extremists and the crazies and the nut jobs and whatever. Is that there's a reason that people, and I'm aware that people are put off by a lot of the performative elements of this stuff. I am too. And by the same with Tucker, by the way, a lot of the stuff that is purely performative, and he goes, "Oh, I never knew about that," and he knows about it, and they go, "Oh," that's their little shtick. You got to look past the shtick, and you got to understand why these people have the audiences they have, and that's because there are still so many people out there who are left behind, who are feeling more left behind than ever. And that brings me on to my piece, because we are now a decade in to this populist nationalist project proper, right? The things, the balls that we started rolling back in 2012 and 2013, through from your side of the pond here, Steve, to mine over in the United Kingdom, when we went around to the little town halls and the little seaside towns all across the United Kingdom, and we looked at what people were going through, and we talked and to understand, not to talk to create content, but to actually understand and to create a policy platform based on the struggles of these ordinary people's lives, and not just ordinary people, right? But people whose families and whose grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents and whose entire family lineages have been sacrificed day upon day, whether it's in the mines, whether it's in the wars, wherever it was and whenever it was, that have created the world that we live in today and that we take for granted every day. And what happened was we saw that they had been shunned, disparaged, spat upon by an establishment who said, "Yeah, thanks, we'll take it from here. Thanks for all the hard work of your bloodline, but we'll take it from here. We got this now. We don't need you. Retire out to your little terrace somewhere off, in some Newcastle suburb. We don't need you." And along with the information age came this ability for people like you and I, and for those to engage with those people. We did it every single morning, remember, for 3 hours on the old Breitbart News radio show, where we had a cross section of society, a cross section of America calling in. And I still remember it off the top of my head. Line 1, Lou in Connecticut. Line 2, Vinny in New York. Line 3, Marianne in Delaware. All of these people, and they stick in your minds. And there's a reason they do, because they told us their ordinary stories of their ordinary lives, and how much trouble they were being put in because of the fecklessness and the carelessness and the wastefulness of the people who were supposed to be not just their elected representatives, but their leaders too. The people, whether they will admit it openly or not, want leadership. And as we walk and stagger in to the midterms next year, I'm afraid that we are lacking in this leadership now. Well, there is leadership in America, in fact, but that leadership is coming from a corporate class that have managed to capture so much of what I call MAGA Inc. now. People who are not involved in this movement, who weren't there, by the way, when we were in 2013 and 14 building this thing from the ground up, let alone 2016, right? Let alone the Brexit movement, let alone going through what you went through, let alone people who have not been, they've not been persecuted for what they've done and what they've believed, but they're here now, and what are they doing with the power that they have, whether they're working in the administration or whether they're consultants or whatever it is? They are just making moolah. They're just in it for the big bucks, and believe me, the bucks are big. Every single day on Capitol Hill, I go through several different phone calls of people just trying to throw cash around. Oh, we need the support for this. We're trying to stop the antitrust people at the DOJ from looking into this, that, and the other. And they take the cash and they run. And they run from the movement. They sell out the people who started this movement. And I'm not talking about you and I here. I'm talking about ordinary people again, right? Who really started this movement. They are really the true inheritors of the Make America Great Again, of the America First movement. And so I started to talk in the last couple of days to friends of mine back in Europe. And I said, look, we went through 2016 together. We're coming on to a decade of this. Are you watching the midterms? And I think I spoke to like 15, 16 people at length about this, political practitioners, reporters, smart people who have been there a long time, who I've known for a decade plus. And almost every single one of them. I think only one of them told me, not really, I'm not really concerned about this. Almost to a man, every single one of them said, hey, listen, as goes America next year, as goes the MAGA movement, as goes the Republican Party's successes or failures in the midterms, so goes Europe. When I spoke to people from France, I spoke to people from Hungary, I spoke to people from Italy, I spoke to people from the United Kingdom, people all across the continent. They all said the same thing: is we are very worried that you guys are sleepwalking into a shellacking, and that as 2016 maybe began with Brexit, in a pure sense, in a pure electoral sense with Brexit, and then bounced over, and you got the Trump wave over here. They're now worried about it bouncing back over in a negative sense, and the problem with it is that whether it's the 50-year mortgages or the $2,000 checks, or the bankers, the bank bosses, or the big pharma bosses hanging out in the Oval Office, people just don't feel like that we're walking into next year in a position of strength, and I happen to agree with them. People who have followed us for a long time and have followed my work for a long time will probably realize, perhaps to Roger Kimball's chagrin, is that I actually do like internecine warfare. I actually shine when it comes to pointing a light on our side and saying, we're getting this wrong. We're getting this wrong. We need to smarten up. We need to sharpen up on these things. And that's where we are now. I rarely make an appearance on this show anymore for a very good reason, is because I'm particularly focused on what we're doing wrong. Everybody can criticize the left. It's very easy. They make it easy for us. And we take the fight to them every single day. But the fight against the negative elements and the nefarious elements on our side is something that I will always be proud to fly the flag for. And this is what this piece is really about. They have almost taken over the whole thing, and it is upon us to grasp it back, to wrestle it back.
We're going to push it.
Otherwise, we're going to get killed next year.
Raheem, social media, where do people go? National Pulse, your Substack, all your social media. So we're pushing this article out hard today from the National Pulse.
Yeah, everything is at Raheem Kassam on social media. I have a new YouTube channel as well. You can find it there, the Substack, and thenationalpulse.com. We are 100% member funded. $9 a month is all we ask to support our work, to reach people with this message. Thenationalpulse.com/war room. Thenationalpulse.com/war room is where you go.
Thank you, brother.